First of all, I just want to, publicly thank Tom and Lupe Izzo for their generous gift to athletics, and I think the majority of that was earmarked for football, which, you know, I talk to our players a lot, and I've oftentimes heard about people talking and the way they look at things. Some people look at life through a straw in terms of how it affects them. You know, this is a great example of someone looking at an overall picture and really giving to an entire athletic program and to giving to a sport other than his own. And I think that makes a tremendous statement for the Izzos as people, and just want to acknowledge that and appreciate it very, very much. Also want to congratulate our hockey coach, Tom Anastas, in his first win as MSU's hockey coach. And I know that there'll be many, many more. So with that, it's Michigan week, so excited about it, as always. You know, Michigan right now is a 6-0 football team, ranked number 10 in the country. They're a football team with, I think, I believe 10 guys on the offensive side of the ball who have starting experience, 7 on the defensive side of the ball that have starting experience, and I think they've blended together with Coach Hoke, and thus far they're having an outstanding season. When you look at them on offensively, obviously, you know, it all starts with Robinson. I think that goes without saying, and you know, but he can dish it to wherever he needs to go, whether it's wide receivers or running backs. They have guys back, talented people. Offensive line is talented with 4 starters back. I'm impressed with their center. You know, they've got tight ends back as well. So I think what they're trying to do is incorporate power football along with, you know, the spread when you look at them. So they are running some power type football, but they're doing out of 1-back sets in some various different ways. But he's going to make it work. He, you know, averages 340 yards a game, total offense, which is huge. Red zone, they're scoring in the red zone. I think 22 out of 27 opportunities into the red zone have resulted in touchdowns. So obviously they're getting it done there, and they've not turned the ball over. Right now, is, you know, they have turned it over some, but overall turnover margin, you know, they're +6, which, you know, right now is number 2 in this conference. So doing a great job. Defensively, I think they've settled in. They're playing with confidence. They're playing extremely hard. They're coming up with turnovers, and they've got a lot of players back. So they've got a lot of players that have been in a couple different systems defensively. And I think they've adapted to Coach Madison's defense, and you know, they're pressuring the quarterback and doing some great things. The specialists are both back, so I think they're hitting on all cylinders. With that being said, you know, this football game is a little bit different. I think I've said it many, many times. When you grow up in this state, you're usually either blue or you're green from the onset. Sometimes you're unfortunate enough to have people in your own family that go one way or the other, which makes it interesting, I would think. But in the end, this is a players' game. This is a rivalry game. This is a game that's going to be played out there between bunch of white lines, and the players are going to take control of this football game. The coaches certainly, and I'm feel very humbled and proud to be a part of this rivalry as a head football coach. Obviously, it'll be the first one with Brady, but still, the coaches have something to do with this game, and they're going to have it all lined up. They're going to have things ready to go, but it's a game of execution. It's a game of emotion, and there's no question in my mind that this game belongs to the players, to the current players that are playing in it, and to the past players who have played in it. I don't have that distinction. I've coached here before. I have a great feel for this game, and we're going to be ready to play. But the game belongs to the players, and so we will honor it accordingly. So I'll just take some questions, and we'll go from there.
Mark, when you came back, you inherited a poor defense. Brady had to do the same thing when he went back to Michigan. Can you talk about the challenges in trying to rebuild the defense for the short term to make it respectable as soon as possible, and then for the long term to try to make it dominant?
Yeah, I think the first thing that happens when any defense, whether you inherit it or whether it's happening as you're currently there, if a defense isn't playing well, the first thing you have to do is rebuild their confidence as people. You have to rebuild that to some extent in terms of them playing hard and being having attention to detail and being able to execute. And I think you go back to basics to do that. Everything that I've seen of Michigan from the spring on, you know, they've gone back to basics. And I think that it shows. It shows when they play, and they're playing extremely hard and they're playing confidently. And I think those are the things you have to change first and foremost. Not so much usually is about what you're doing, it's how you're doing it. And that, when we came back here, we put an emphasis on blocking, really on defense, on tackling in space and getting off of blocks. The name of the game on defense is pressuring the quarterback. Got to be able to do that. You have to affect the quarterback in some way, and you have to make a team one-dimensional. But I've been impressed with the job that they've done.
Mark, you talk about how proud you are of these players, that they've put this program in a position to match a school record with 4 in a row, and how they've responded to how you have treated this rivalry with, dating back to the countdown clock and when it got personal with Mike Hart, and just that whole dynamic.
Well, that whole dynamic, some of it I'm proud of, some of it I'm not, I guess. But, I just believe in making things, the things that are important, that people hold great value in, which I believe that this game is one of them. I believe in making it important and doing certain things to try and put an asterisk behind that game. So it becomes personal when you play in this game. I think our freshmen right now maybe understand a little bit of it. Maybe their freshmen understand a little bit of it. But once you play in this game or are on the sidelines in this game, you got a different feel for it. And that's a beautiful thing. That's what rivalries are all about. That's whether you're playing in this game or playing in a different rivalry. It's going to be the same. And those become very special. As far as what we've tried to do since coming here, we put a countdown clock up because from day one when we walked in here, we pointed towards that, and there were others that said that we couldn't. And so we wanted to make a point. I think we've made the point, and we'll move on from there.
What are you not proud of when you what you were
I don't like to stoop to that level. I don't want to, I guess some of my comments after the 07 game, but hey, I was emotional, so it happens.
You talk about this as a different game. How do you notice it from the field, fan, the loudness, the crowd? How is it different from a Wisconsin game?
Well, I think everybody's coming. When I said you bring your A game to this game, everybody's coming, bringing their A game. The Spartans out here in this stadium, they'll bring their A game. Promise you. I think the Wolverines that are fortunate enough to come will probably have their A game on too. But I've heard stories walking into the stadium, just from people walking up to other people and saying things that's out of the blue. And I think people come with a mindset to this game. It's not just any other game. This is a special game, not just to the players, but for families, for friends, for a lot of different people in the state.
You've seen a lot of good defenses, Mark. You've seen a lot of good defenses over the years. How good is this one that you've got this year? Are there some questions you still have about it?
Well, I think that you have to evaluate a football team after they've gone through an entire schedule. I think we've played very well. I think our guys know what they're doing. They tackle well in space. We're going to find out how well on Saturday. And, the chips are going to get higher and the stakes are going to get higher as we go. And, the evaluation of the performance is going to get more complete as we go. But thus far, we've passed the test. Okay, now will we pass the test of time here throughout this season, throughout the 2011 season? But we're coming, and we're confident football team as well. So we'll lay it out there.
Just going to go back to 07 once more. Did losing that game in your first year back here and the circumstances that surround it, did that recharge you for this rivalry?
No, I was already pretty charged up for that rivalry. For this one, it just sort of re-tapped some energy, I guess. But no, I think everybody's ready for this. I mean, even when I was an assistant coach, you were ready for this game. And you just sort of, too many people wherever you're at. Too many people, you come across too many people that make it, that make it personal for you. Whether it's past players or past coaches or being in the game yourself or whatever it is, it makes it a little bit more personal, I think. You tend not to forget what's gone on in these games.
Mark,
How has Denard changed as a quarterback, and is the challenge about the same, even though their offense is a little bit different, about the same this year as it was a year ago going into this game?
I think it's about the same in terms of the challenges. He was extremely productive last year. He was a run-pass threat last year. He was very difficult, get down in space. So, you know, he's matured another year because he has experience, and you know, the experiences that you have are going to carry you forward. So I think that, you know, if anything, he's probably better because of time spent. But they're doing a lot of, you know, they're incorporating a lot of the same things, probably in their own way, but they're still giving him options to run. They're still giving him options to pass. You see some of the same schematics play-wise. You see different ones as well, but they're still giving him the ball equally as much.
You know, even though there's two headliners at quarterback in this one, rushing the football has pretty much been the deciding factor often in this game. How much do you emphasize that this week, and is it true more so in this game than any other?
In terms of rushing the football, yeah, I think you have to, obviously you have to be able to stop the run. You have to be able to control. You know, explosive plays are huge in this football game, either way, I'm sure. Turnovers are huge in this game. Those two factors, I think red zone, you know, how you're playing in the red zone, those are the factors that win or lose football games, I think, in the end. You know, you start looking at and tweaking those things, but certainly you've got to have a great game plan, and you've got to be able to be, you know, in control of certain facets of the game, and I would say that's one of them.
Coach, do you think the bye week may have helped Kirk Cousins as much as anybody to kind of give him a step back to reevaluate and get back to fundamentals, what have you?
Well, I think that our entire football team, you know, we're able to step back and reflect on where we're at, what we have to do, and then the next football game. So that remains to be seen as we move forward. But he'll be sharp. He'll be ready to go. As much as anything, we've gotten some people back, healed up. I think that you know, a little bit better shape physically right now in terms of playing with injuries. It wasn't that they were out necessarily, but they would play injured. I don't think that's the case right now.
Mark, right here in the back. Now that you and Michigan are in the same division in the Big Ten, both undefeated in that division, this game takes on a little bit more meaning as far as that's concerned.
Yeah, it does. It takes on an added meaning because of the tiebreakers and all the different things that goes into it. I also think that you know, the winner of this football game obviously goes on to 2-0 in the Big Ten and 2-0 in the Legends, and you know, so we'll see how all that plays out with everybody else. But it puts that particular team on top right now.
You've referenced in the past this game and its impact on recruiting. How does it impact recruiting?
Well, you know, recruiting has become so accelerated that, you know, everybody's sort of lined up already for this year. But I think what it does is it impacts those guys who are 9th and 10th graders at this time, maybe 12th, 11th graders as well. But I think it has a bearing on the future, so it's critical in that respect. Although, you know, probably for this state in particular, like I said, you're growing up one way or the other usually. So maybe it doesn't have as much as we think, but you certainly feel like it.
Mark, I know it hasn't been that long since we last asked you, but is there any clearer picture at this point on Fowler and Hoover? And I know you mentioned when Treadwell first got hurt, you were hoping he would be back by this week. Is he any closer?
Yeah, Hoover and Tread will not play. I think that Benny will probably play. That's my take on things right now. But right now, Tyler and Blake are both guys that are out probably for, you know, maybe 3 weeks or plus more, and maybe candidates for red shirts.
Can you talk about your relationship with Brady and his brother? Just how do you got to know them?
Yeah, I got to know his brother John very well when Don Treadwell was a very good friend of John Hoke's, and so I got to know John through that. Then John Hoke coached over at Kent State when I was at Youngstown State, so I knew he and his wife, and I sort of met Brady through that, but don't know him nearly as well as I do his brother. But you know, I've always had respect for him and the job that he's done and where he's been as a college coach.
Mark, last year
it was well known that Tony Lippett did an excellent job mimicking Denard in practice on the scout team. Did you go back to using him or some other player?
Yeah, we've used a variety of players in that. Mitchell White's a guy that we slide in and out of there, even though he's a backup corner for us, and he's played. But he was a quarterback in high school, quick-footed. We'll use Tony a little bit in that area. Spencer Elliott's a young freshman that's played quarterback, very good athlete, so he's played in that area as well. So we sort of take our practice and divide it up in terms of when we're going against scouts, and then when we're going against a little higher profile not scout team, but take our best players and put them in there and implement them into different situations that he would do. Obviously, we can't do that throughout the entire practice, and we have to be careful not to get people injured, but we need to see game speed as much as we can, as best we can simulate it.
Mark, the stars are aligned for a huge weekend around here with the 65-66 team back, Midnight Madness the night before. I'm sure you have a zillion recruits here. How big is this outside the game just to keep this momentum going and show the world?
I think it's big. It's a football game, though. So, obviously after this game, regardless of what happens, you got to gear up for the next one, and the next one's Wisconsin for us. So regardless of what happens, you need to move forward, and that's the take. And for myself, and I think for our coaches, and probably for our players a little bit, we do live in a bubble. I mean, we really do during the season, and in some cases we live there pretty much the whole year. But so you're dealing with what you can control and dealing with things that are affecting your football team right now, and one way or the other, we got to get up and go to work on Sunday, and there's going to be a way we're going to have to address our football team. So does everything else, it's all window dressing to me. It's what's important is the next game. That'll be important next week. What's important right now is this game. This is an important football game. I've never shied away from that, and never going to. And we're going to be ready to play this football game. But at the end of this week, we need to turn our attention to the next challenge, because there's something else just waiting for us, one way or the other.
Coach, you guys were the first to really slow down Denard Robinson last year. What did you do well there, and how much can that give your guys confidence going into this one?
I think we've played well the last 2 years, really, against them. Really the last three, 08, 09, and 010. We played pretty well against them. I think some of the things that we do, we try and change up some of the things we do. Maybe more importantly, as I said, our players have come ready to play. We've been able to tackle in space pretty well, and we've come up with some turnovers and done the different things that you have to do to win a football game. So they haven't scored 30-plus points. That's always a big contributing factor there. So that's what we've been able to do thus far.
Coach, if your seniors are able to go 4-0 against Michigan, is that something you think that they'll probably celebrate and remember for the rest of their lives? And how much would you encourage that?
Well, I'm encouraging it, and that's for sure. I think 4-0 is great, 5-0 is better. But we'll just keep working towards it. But right now, the main emphasis is on the next game. What's happened, what's done is done, and we have to play these one game at a time. But I think that's something that our football team and our players can look at and embrace as they move forward. I think that's the case with any rival game, though, too.
Coach, Brady Hoke yesterday and the Michigan players talked about it being the hardest hitting game on the schedule. I know you always want your team to be physical. Do you have to impress that upon them this week, or does it happen naturally?
Oh, I think it's just going to happen. It's a physical game. Football is a physical game, and usually if you're playing more physical than your opponent, you have a greater chance to win. So that goes without saying. I think our ideals this week have to be, hey, bring it to Saturday. Bring whatever you have this Saturday. Don't bring it here on Tuesday. Bring it on Saturday. And that's what we want to make sure that we're in control of ourselves and we're getting ready to play. And this is very much a game of emotion, but it is very much a game of execution as well. You've got to be in the right place, the right time. You've got to have the right things called at times. But players are making plays out there, and like I said, this game does belong to the players, but it's important that they execute. And attention to detail, obviously, is very critical in this game, as it is in every football game, I think. Margin of error, though, when you're playing a guy like Denard Robinson, the margin of error is very small. Guys good? All right. Thanks again.